Hi everybody, this is Marr here, and you're about to watch a lost episode of the Marr Show from way back in early 2017. At that point in time, I was sort of in limbo about what to do with the Marr Show. After doing the show for like 5 years, I didn't know if I want to continue doing the Marr Show, reboot it into a brand new style to give it a fresh take or something. And before I ended up filming my Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild review, I did 2 episodes of the Marr Show, but none of them never saw the light of day. This episode you're about to watch is one of the first episodes of the Marr Show I did back in 2017, and it's on the Banjo Kazooie games that were released for the Game Boy Advance, which are actually really good games. If you ever find Grunty's Revenge or Banjo Pilot out in the wild, I definitely recommend picking those games up. They're actually really fun, I have to say. Even though I did end up recording my footage of my review of it, as well as editing the opening and ending sketches with Winston, Curry, and all the other characters that appear, I didn't end up releasing the video or work on it any further, as again, I didn't know what to really do with the Marr Show, and I sort of lost interest in doing the rest of that episode. But after doing some thinking for the past couple of months, I thought it would be fun to revisit this project, end up editing it all the way, recording some brand new gameplay footage of the games, and give you guys this lost episode from early 2017. And that's one important thing to remember. This was literally a couple months before the Nintendo Switch launched. In fact, I believe I filmed this before the January Nintendo Switch presentation, before they announced like Mario Odyssey, the release date for the console as well. Plus, it's also fun to see Winston and the others again. I know I don't use them a whole lot in my videos, which is a shame because I do wish I could continue using them without forcing it into a video or something. But it'll be a fun little way to see some old classic characters like Curry and Winston and Freddie Jenkins from who knows when and see them again. So, hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, here's my review of Banjo Pilot and Banjo Kazooie Grunty's Revenge. Enjoy! Hi there everybody, and welcome to Video Games 101 with me, Winston. Yeah, it's so great to see so many interested people in the world of video games, you know? So anyway, for today's lesson, I figure it's time to talk about 2 of the most amazing games on the N64 library, and those 2 games being Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie. Now, these games are beyond legendary. They're so classic that they're still fun to this day. They're made by the great company called Rareware. And
Excuse me!
Oh yes, you, the Chewbacca-looking one.
Why is that bear holding a purple birdie?
Oh, that? Okay, yeah, that's not a birdie, okay? That's a Jinjo. It's a collectible in the game.
What the heck is a Jinjo?
So it's a game about collecting sorts of animals?
It's not a game about collecting animals, everyone, okay? Yeah, just because there are animals in the game doesn't mean you collect animals, okay?
If I may pardon this interruption, but is there a banjo in the game? Because I noticed the game is called Banjo and Kazooie. So does that mean we're gonna see a banjo in the game or something?
Oh, what about Kazooie?
Yeah, kazoo. A kazoo is so much fun.
There are no instruments in the game that come in like... Wait, actually... There's actually some instruments in the opening, so I guess that counts. I don't know. Yeah, case in point, these 2 are the only Banjo Kazooie games out there. And hopefully there may be someday when a 3rd entry will rise up from the ashes and give us a proper 3rd game. For these 2 are the last ones in the series.
I could have sworn there was a game that was on the 360 a few years ago.
The last one!
If I may intervene here, you do realize there are like 2 more Banjo Kazooie games on the Game Boy Advance, right?
No, Delmar. This is only these 2 games here, and that's it. I mean, yeah, there was that one on the 360 that I like to forget, but still. There was no way that 2 more Banjo Kazooie games can interest I don't know what's real anymore!
Well, I mean, you didn't know. I mean, to be fair, not much people really
talk about these two. I mean, like, they were released like in 2003, shortly after the Microsoft buyout, or 2005, whatever. So I mean, like, not much people really talk about them, but I mean, you know, they could be fun, and they could be on the same level as Banjo Kazooie and Tooie.
What, are you gonna talk about them or something?
Is that the reason why the camera has been recording this entire time?
I'm not sure. Just get out of here, man.
Yeah, I agree. Hello and welcome everyone to the Marr Show. And today, everyone, I want to talk about two games that not a whole lot of people really talk about per se, even though they're part of a video game franchise that a lot of people really enjoy. I've been wanting for years, a new installment, but yes, just talk about the games first and foremost. We all are familiar on Banjo Kazooie and Banjo Tooie. Both are excellent platformers on the Nintendo 64 with such lovable characters, great level designs, amazing and catchy music, and just overall amazing platformers. And heck, Banjo Kazooie, in my opinion, is like my all-time favorite N64 game. I mean, it's like an improved Mario 64 basically, and it's just so much fun. I really highly recommend it. And Banjo Tooie is good as well, but I still kind of prefer the first one because it does get a bit overwhelming having to do a lot of backtracking and trying to figure out what to get next in that certain world, but they're both excellent games. Now, the last Banjo Kazooie game that was made was Nuts and Bolts, which was released on the Xbox 360. I have yet to play that because I don't own a 360, so I can't really comment on that per se. However, a lot of people forget that there were actually two more Banjo Kazooie games released. Ironically enough, on the Game Boy Advance, even though at this point they were owned by Microsoft Studios, but whatever. And those two games being Banjo Pilot and Banjo Kazooie Grunty's Revenge. Looking at these games and realizing there were two other Banjo Kazooie games on the Game Boy Advance, you have to ask, how did these games came out? Because like at this point they were owned by Microsoft. Well, the only thing I can really figure out is that since Microsoft doesn't have a portable system, there's no really losing stake in publishing games on a portable system that wasn't them, because in so forth they won't lose money. I'm not sure. That's the only reason I could figure out, is that since Microsoft didn't have a stake in the portable market, they felt like, hey, do whatever you want or something. I mean, heck, on the DS we had Diddy Kong Racing DS, which they actually made. Rareware did. Both these games were made by Rareware and published by THQ, and they met good success, I guess. Not much people talk about them, so I guess it didn't last that long. But as a fan of Banjo Kazooie, I figured why not just take a look at them and talk about them. So yeah, let's just talk about them, I guess. And the first game we'll talk about is Banjo Pilot. And ironically, Banjo Pilot was actually meant to be a Diddy Kong Racing game on the GBA. However, since Microsoft, like Rareware, couldn't use the Diddy Kong license, they figured just put Banjo Kazooie on it. Which is good because one of the characters they were going to use in Diddy Kong Racing was a bit suggestive and maybe somewhat offensive, I guess. I'm not sure. I have to admit that was the weirdest choice of all. And Banjo Pilot is exactly what it sounds like. It's a racing game where all the characters drive on planes and race around in a Mario Kart X feel. And we all know that Mario Kart can work well on Game Boy Advance with Mario Kart Super Circuit. And to make a whole game about planes racing in a Mario Kart-esque feel sounds like a fun, unique title. And with Banjo Kazooie characters, how you go wrong? You got Banjo and Kazooie, Grunty, Humba Wumba, Mumbo Jumbo, so many other characters. And so far, it seems like a pretty basic kart racing. With the planes, you can levitate up or down to easily avoid items or to just give a whole 3D feel of it. There are also honeycombs in the game, which pretty much is the item box that gives you random items to use. The 3D effect on the GBA works astonishingly well, and one of my favorite graphical effects is when an item hits the character, they fall on the ground and kind of bounce around a bit before getting back up. Pretty fun, and the whole visual style is pleasing, and the music themselves are really catchy, really upbeat. I'm not sure if Grant Kirkhope composed the music for them or not, but they still sound very catchy and upbeat, and it's all around fun. And probably one of the more interesting things about Banjo Pilot is actually the replay value. aside from just unlocking different cups and so forth, you can actually go to Cheeto and you actually get points or pages that you can use to unlock new battle modes, new characters, and so on, which adds a lot of replay to this and actually makes it a little bit better than Mario Kart Super Circuit. However, this game has some stuff that's kind of confusing, like since you're on an airplane, you would think that being on a side of the track like water or ground will make the friction less and make your car go a little bit slow. And yet for somehow it is like you're above water and yet the plane kind of has like a little shaky effect, signaling that it can't go as fast. And it seems kind of weird since it's an airplane and shouldn't have friction unless it's like heavy clouds, but there's no cloud coverage or anything like that, so that part kind of confused me. But I mean, as a racing game on the GBA, it's actually a lot of fun. I mean, it may not be the best racing ever, but it has a lot of fun charm to it. Driving around in an airplane is actually very satisfying. The controls are spot on, and not to mention this, all the Banjo Kazooie characters in this, and that's always worth something. So I highly recommend checking out Banjo Pilot. And next up is Banjo Kazooie Grunty's Revenge, which actually after looking up stuff on online, is apparently actually canon after Banjo Tooie. So I have to admit that's pretty interesting, I have to say, even though I don't think these games were even mentioned in Nuts and Bolts. I don't think. I haven't played the game yet. 2 months after Gruntilda's defeat, Gruntilda's minion, Congo, is unable to make any progress moving the boulder that's crushing her, and instead he builds a mechanical body for Gruntilda which she possesses with her spirit, allowing her to extract revenge on Banjo and Kazooie. Mega Grunty kidnaps Kazooie and travels 20 years back in time to keep the duo from ever meeting. Mumbo Jumbo uses some of his magic to send Banjo back in time to stop her. And that's pretty much the plot of the game. Your Banjo having to save Kazooie 20 years in the past and stop Mega Grunty. And it's a fine plot. It actually feels like a whole follow-up to Banjo Kazooie. It may not be a huge, big, grand scale, but then again, for being on a portable system, it's actually a very good plot, I have to admit. Now, the ideal of a Banjo Kazooie 3D platformer on a GBA sounds like kind of a mixed idea, like it would be good in some places and then kind of bad in some others. But actually, for it being a 3D platformer on a Game Boy Advance, it actually works really well. Controls are very spot on. You can move around as Banjo, and you have many different movesets. You can roll, use your backpack to whack people. Sometimes when you're doing platforming or jumping on cliffs, sometimes it may not be unclear as to what cliffs you can jump on and ones you have to use higher elevation on. So the perspective can be a bit tough to keep track of. Other than that, it's still very playable, and it still feels like a great Banjo Kazooie game with all the different movesets and collecting Jiggies. Collecting Jiggies is a little easier in some places, but honestly isn't that bad. You also get to collect notes as well and use some of the notes to gain extra moves from one of Bottle's older ancestors. And visually the game does look very pleasing. Like, I do admire the 3D perspective on the GBA. It definitely gives it a very unique style, and it feels like Banjo Kazooie. That's the most important thing. It just feels like another addition to the Banjo Kazooie title. Like, if it was still owned by Nintendo, this would be something they would have added on the GBA. But I think they will probably plan on doing it either way. Like, again, there's not really a whole lot of information on like how these games was able to get a pass from Microsoft to be on here, aside from the fact Microsoft didn't have a hand in the portable market, or they just really wanted to make another Banjo Kazooie game. I'm not really sure. So yeah, both of these games are really fun. Well, crap. Banjo Pilot is a really fun racing game with a lot of replay value, especially trying to get all the unlockables using the Cheeto. And then this game is just a fun platformer that has a lot, that just feels like a great Banjo successor in a way. Even though the perspective in some places may be a little bit confusing to the eye, but other than that, it's still an extremely fun platformer. Now, I wouldn't really go on a whim saying these games are up to the greatness of the original Banjo Kazooie and Tooie, but they're second great games. Really fun, and I definitely recommend that if you're a Banjo Kazooie game, you should definitely check them out. And they're actually extremely cheap as well. I was able to pick both these games. I think like this one was $7 and this one like $5 or something, so they're extremely cheap games to get, and I definitely recommend adding them to your collection. And that's all the time we have for today, folks. So if you would like to leave your thoughts on today's games, just comment below. And hey, maybe on the comment section, what are your favorite Banjo Kazooie games? Are you a fan of the first one or the second one? Or are you a fan of Nuts and Bolts? Again, I haven't played those games, but I heard some positive aspects of it. And also, if you have played these games, do you like them? Do you think they're as good as the ones in the N64? Or was there some aspects of the game that you just didn't really like? Or something like that. So yeah, definitely check these games out. And now if you excuse me, I guess I better do some teaching or something. I'm not sure. And you see guys, that's how the whole stop and swap thing used to work. But then they fixed it in Nuts and Bolts, so that's actually probably the reason why I should play it or something. Hope everyone got that understanding. Thanks for joining for Video Games 101. Thank you.
Hey, wait a moment. This is my time to shine. I'm the one who started all Video Game 101. Well, why you not make me finish it up?
But wait, didn't you used to have a phobia of banjos once?
What? No, you must have mistaken. I got over that years ago. There's no way that I got my phobia back from years ago with all the banjos. Oh gosh. Why are there so many banjos, man? Why are there so many banjos? Help me! Help me!